Hello, darling. Your crazy mother won't let us in. Harper's shrill voice pierced the quiet of my Saturday morning traveling effortlessly through the thin glass of my living room window. I stood just out of sight, gripping my mug of black coffee, watching my daughter-in-law pace across my front porch. 3 massive suitcases sat stacked against the railing, blocking the path to the driveway. She had one hand on her hip, the other pressing her phone to her ear. I hadn't said a word to her. I hadn't even approached the door yet. She just assumed I was ignoring her because the door was locked. She was right. But her immediate leap to shouting insults to my son Liam told me everything I needed to know about this visit. 2 weeks ago, I had undergone a minor knee procedure. The doctor prescribed strict rest, clear floors, and absolutely no stress. I had explicitly texted Liam I am recovering, no visitors for the next month. He had replied with a simple thumbs-up emoji. Yet here Harper was dragging enough luggage to last an entire season, kicking the toes of her expensive boots against my welcome mat. I took a slow sip of my coffee. I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel the familiar heavy guilt that usually pushed me to open the door and accommodate them. For years, my home had been their free hotel, their storage unit, and their escape plan whenever they mismanaged their own lives. If Harper wanted a kitchen remodel, they stayed with me. If Liam wanted to save money for a vacation, they ate my groceries. Not today. I stepped backward, ensuring I remained hidden behind the heavy living room curtains. Harper aggressively rattled the brass handle of the front door again. When it didn't yield, she huffed loudly, dropping her phone back into her designer purse. She leaned over and reached under the heavy ceramic planter holding my petunias. She was looking for the spare key I'd kept there for a decade, but I had prepared for this exact moment. Harper's hand scraped around the bottom of the ceramic planter. I watched her perfectly manicured fingers come up empty, covered only in a light dusting of dry soil. She froze, her expression twisting from annoyance into genuine confusion. She shoved the heavy pot aside, peering at the bare concrete underneath. The spare key was sitting in my kitchen drawer. I had removed it 3 days ago. I walked slowly into the kitchen, favoring my recovering knee, and set my coffee mug on the granite counter. My cell phone vibrated, sliding an inch across the surface. The screen lit up with Liam's name. I didn't answer. Letting it ring gave me a moment to think. Liam was predictable. He avoided conflict at all costs, usually letting Harper bulldoze her way through our family dynamics, while he played the helpless bystander. If he was calling, it meant Harper had demanded he fix the situation. The phone stopped, then chimed with a text message. "Mom, Harper is at the house. The spare key isn't outside. Let her in. She's exhausted." I stared at the screen. Not a single question about my knee. No apology for the unannounced arrival. Just an order. I picked up the phone and typed my reply slowly, ensuring every word was deliberate. "I told you 2 weeks ago I am not having guests. I am resting." His reply came seconds later. "We rented out our place for the summer to make extra cash. We need to stay with you. Just open the door, Mom. Don't make a big deal out of this." They had rented out their own home. They planned to collect thousands of dollars in rent while living off my groceries, running up my utility bills, and leaving their clutter in my living room, all while I was supposed to be recovering. A sharp, rhythmic knocking echoed from the front of the house. Harper was losing her patience. I wiped down the countertop with a damp cloth, enjoying the quiet hum of my refrigerator. I was entirely done being convenient, and they were about to realize just how much of their convenience I controlled. The knocking turned into pounding. Harper wasn't just tapping anymore. She was using the flat of her palm against the heavy oak wood. "Sophia, I know you're in there. Liam's car is tracking your phone," she yelled. I sighed, drying my hands on a kitchen towel, tracking my phone. That was the detail that finally snapped the last thread of my patience. Years ago, when Liam got his first job out of college, he had asked to stay on my family's cell phone plan to save money. When he married Harper, she conveniently joined it too. It was just another invisible bill I paid every month out of habit, an automatic deduction I rarely thought about. Until now, I walked into my small home office, turning on my desktop computer. The screen flickered to life. I opened my web browser and logged into my cellular provider's portal. The interface was simple. 3 lines: mine, Liam's, and Harper's. My mouse hovered over the account settings. I clicked on Liam's line. Suspend service. Then I clicked on Harper's. Suspend service. I checked the box that stated the devices were no longer authorized on the account. It took less than 4 minutes. Outside, the pounding stopped abruptly. I imagined Harper looking down at her screen, watching the signal bars vanish into a "no service" warning. I didn't stop there. I opened another tab, navigating to the auto insurance company. I still owned the title to the crossover SUV Harper drove. I had bought it for Liam years ago, but Harper had essentially claimed it. I pulled up the policy, selected the vehicle, and clicked Remove from Policy. I printed the confirmation pages, neatly folding them into a small envelope. The financial cord wasn't just cut, it was entirely severed. I didn't need to argue with them or throw a screaming fit on the front lawn. I simply stopped paying for their lifestyle. Through the window, I saw Liam's car finally pull up to the curb. He slammed his door, looking stressed. I picked up the envelope and walked toward the front hallway. It was time to open the door. I unlocked the heavy wooden door and pulled it open, leaving the reinforced metal screen door securely locked between us. Harper spun around, her face flushed with anger. Liam jogged up the steps, out of breath. "Mom, what is going on?" Liam demanded, stopping next to his wife. "Harper's phone just died. My service is gone too. We can't even pull up our banking app." "Hello, Liam." I greeted him calmly, leaning slightly on my cane. "I'm recovering well, thank you for asking." He blinked, temporarily thrown off balance. "Mom, please. We have luggage out here. Open the screen." "No," I replied. The word hung in the morning air, sharp and clear. Harper stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "Sophia, stop playing games. We rented our house out. The tenants moved in this morning. We are staying here until August. You have 4 empty bedrooms." "I have 4 empty bedrooms in my house," I corrected her gently. "A house I specifically told you would be closed to guests while I recover from surgery." "We aren't guests. We're family," Harper snapped. "And what did you do to our phones?" I slipped the folded envelope through the small mail slot at the bottom of the screen door. It fluttered down, landing on the welcome mat right in front of Liam's shoes. "I updated my finances," I stated. "Since you are savvy enough to become landlords and collect rent all summer, you are financially secure enough to pay your own cellular and auto insurance bills. I've suspended the lines and removed the SUV from my policy." Liam stared at the white envelope as if it were a snake. He slowly bent down and picked it up. He opened it, his eyes scanning the printed confirmation pages. All the color drained from his face. "Mom, you canceled the car insurance. I can't drive it legally right now." "Then I suggest you park it carefully," I advised. Harper grabbed the papers from his hands. "You can't do this. We don't have the budget for this right now. All our rental income is going toward the new boat." I smiled, a small, quiet expression. That was the piece I had been waiting for. "A new boat," I repeated. The sheer audacity of it washed over me, replacing any lingering trace of maternal guilt with cold clarity. "Yes, a boat," Harper shot back, refusing to back down. "Liam works hard. We deserve to enjoy our summer. Now unlock this door so I can use your Wi-Fi to fix the phone situation." "You are trespassing on my porch, Harper," I noted softly. Just then, my next-door neighbor Barb walked down the sidewalk. She was holding a bright green watering can tending to the hydrangeas that bordered our properties. Barb was a retired school principal, a woman who missed absolutely nothing. Harper saw her and immediately shifted her tone, trying to play to the audience. Barb, can you believe this? Sophia is locking us out. We have nowhere to go, and she's treating her own son like a stranger. Barb paused. She looked at Harper, then at the mountain of luggage, and finally at me, standing peacefully behind the screen door. Barb knew about my knee. She had brought me a casserole 3 days ago. Looks to me like you're bothering a woman who just had surgery, Harper, Barb called out smoothly. If you need a place to stay, the Holiday Inn on Route 9 has a summer special. Barb turned her back and continued watering her flowers. Harper's mouth fell open. She looked at Liam, expecting him to defend her, to demand entry, to do something. Liam looked utterly defeated. Mom, seriously, where are we supposed to go? You are a grown man, Liam. You will figure it out, I answered. You made a financial decision to lease your home without securing alternate housing first. That is a terrible business model, but it is entirely your problem to solve. We are your family, he pleaded, using the one phrase that had always worked in the past. Family respects boundaries, I replied. Family doesn't plan to use an injured woman as an unpaid maid for 3 months to finance a boat. I stepped back into the cool interior of my hallway. Sophia, open this door right now, Harper shrieked. I didn't argue. I simply closed the heavy oak door, sliding the deadbolt into place with a satisfying heavy click. The silence inside my home was beautiful. I walked back to the kitchen, poured the rest of my coffee down the sink, and rinsed the mug. Outside, I could hear the muffled sounds of a heated argument. Liam and Harper were no longer shouting at me. They were shouting at each other. I didn't try to listen. Their crisis was entirely of their own making. 10 minutes later, the sound of dragging wheels echoed from the porch. Then came the slam of a trunk, followed by a car engine starting and driving away. I didn't look out the window to check. I trusted the silence. I spent the rest of the day exactly as the doctor ordered. I read a book in my recliner. I iced my knee. I ordered a modest dinner from my favorite Italian restaurant down the street. No one complained about the food. No one left dirty dishes on the coffee table. No one asked me to wash their laundry. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. The heavy obligation of managing my son's adulthood had vanished. After breakfast, I sat at my dining table with my laptop. The cell phones and the car insurance were just the beginning. It was time to look at the rest of my financial footprint. I logged into my primary bank account. 5 years ago, during a brief health scare, I had added Liam to a secondary savings account as a joint owner, just in case I needed him to pay my bills in an emergency. The balance wasn't massive, but it was a healthy safety net. I reviewed the transaction history. Last month, there was a $500 withdrawal I hadn't made. The memo line read, Harper, Spa Weekend. I took a deep breath. I didn't feel angry. I just felt foolish for leaving the door open so long. I transferred the entire balance of that joint account directly into my private individual checking account. Then, I clicked the option to close the joint account entirely. The bank's website processed the request. Account successfully closed. I closed my laptop. My money, my home, and my peace were finally secured. I thought the worst was over until a sleek black car pulled into my driveway at noon. I watched through the front window as the black sedan idled in my driveway. It wasn't Liam's car. The driver rolled down the window, and for a moment I thought it was a delivery. But then a notification popped up on my tablet, resting on the side table. An email from Harper. Subject, the college fund. I opened it. The message was brief and dripping with entitlement. Since you decided to leave your son homeless, we had to book an expensive long-term Airbnb. We expect you to transfer $10,000 from the college fund you set up to cover our living expenses. Liam needs a quiet place to work remotely. Send it by 5 p.m. or we won't be visiting for Thanksgiving. I looked back out the window. The black car slowly backed out of the driveway and drove away. It was just an Uber turning around. The real threat was sitting in my inbox. Harper thought she had leverage. She thought weaponizing the holidays would make me cave. She believed the college fund was a communal pot of gold they could raid whenever they mismanaged their lives. I sat down at the keyboard and typed a single precise sentence. The 529 plan is in my name, and the funds can only be legally dispersed directly to an educational institution. Enjoy your Airbnb. I hit send. I didn't justify my actions. I didn't apologize. I simply stated a fact. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Liam. I let it go to voicemail. When the voicemail icon appeared, I listened to it on speakerphone. His voice was frantic, no longer playing the passive observer. "Mom, you can't just cut us off like this. We relied on that money as a backup. We planned our whole summer around staying at the house. If you don't help us, we're going to be in serious debt. You're going to leave this house and the money to me anyway. Why make it so difficult now?" There it was, the quiet, unspoken truth that had dictated our relationship for years. He thought he already owned my assets. He viewed my home not as my sanctuary, but as his early inheritance. It was time to fix that misconception permanently. The next morning, I made a phone call. Not to Liam, and certainly not to Harper. I called a woman named Sarah, a real estate agent who had helped several of my friends downsize over the last few years. Sarah arrived at my house 2 hours later carrying a sleek leather portfolio. We sat at the kitchen table drinking tea. "It's a beautiful property, Sophia," Sarah noted, looking around the spacious kitchen and out into the large backyard. 4 bedrooms in this neighborhood. It will sell incredibly fast. But are you sure you're ready to let it go? You've been here a long time. "I'm sure," I answered without hesitation. "It's too much space. The maintenance is exhausting, and quite frankly, it attracts too many house guests. I want something smaller, a 2-bedroom townhouse, single level, something I can manage entirely on my own." Sarah nodded, pulling out a listing agreement. "I have a new development opening up just across town. Gated, quiet, 0-yard maintenance. You'd love it." We spent the next hour walking through the house, discussing minor repairs and staging. I didn't need to consult Liam. I didn't need anyone's permission. The deed was in my name, a loan paid off in full a decade ago. By the time Sarah left, the paperwork was signed. The "coming soon" sign would go up in the yard by Friday. That evening, I received another text from Liam. "Mom, Harper is stressed out. The Airbnb is tiny. Can we please just come over for dinner and talk about this? We can compromise." Compromise. He meant I would cook clean and eventually agreed to let them move in under slightly different terms. I replied, "I am not cooking. I am resting. Do not come over." I placed my phone on the charger and walked into the living room. I looked at the empty spaces, the shelves, holding decades of memories. I didn't feel sad. I felt a profound sense of relief. I was taking my life back, brick by brick. And the most beautiful part was that they had absolutely no idea it was happening. Friday morning arrived bright and clear. I sat on my front porch, a cup of tea in hand, watching a young man in a blue polo shirt hammer a wooden post into my front lawn. He attached a polished swinging sign, "For sale. Sarah Jenkins Realty." It looked perfect. I went back inside and continued packing a small box of delicate china. I didn't have to wait long for the reaction. At exactly 1:15 p.m., my phone lit up with a barrage of text messages followed instantly by a phone call. I answered on the third ring. Hello, Liam. Mom. What is happening? Why did a buddy of mine just text me a picture of a for sale sign in your front yard? Are you out of your mind? Liam was shouting, his voice echoing slightly, as if he was pacing outside his rental. I'm downsizing, I stated evenly. The house is too big for me. You can't sell the house. That's my childhood home. That's the house Harper and I were going to move into when… You know. He trailed off, too embarrassed to finish the sentence. When I died, I finished for him. Well, I am very much alive, Liam, and I have decided to use my equity to fund a comfortable, stress-free retirement for myself. Mom, you have to take the sign down. We need that house. You can't just make a massive decision like this without talking to the family. I am the family, Liam. I am the owner. The decision is made. I heard Harper screaming something in the background, her voice muffled but frantic. Mom, please. Liam's tone shifted from angry to desperate. If you sell the house, where are we supposed to go when our lease is up? You will find an apartment or buy a house of your own, just like every other capable adult, I told him. You are 32 years old. It is time to manage your own life. I didn't wait for him to argue. I pressed the red button ending the call. I felt my pulse steady, slow, and calm. The boundary was set in stone, and for the first time in years, I was the one holding the hammer. 6 weeks later, the large house was sold to a lovely young couple who thrilled at the prospect of filling the 4 bedrooms. The closing was smooth, the check cleared, and my bank account reflected a level of security I hadn't felt since my husband passed away. I didn't stay in the neighborhood to watch the new owners move in. I was already sitting on the private sunlit patio of my new 2-bedroom townhouse. The space was perfect. There were no stairs to bother my knee, no massive lawn to maintain, and crucially, no extra bedrooms for uninvited guests. The 2nd bedroom was an office heavily populated with my books and a comfortable reading chair. Liam and Harper had sent a few angry emails, mostly drafted by Harper, demanding a share of the house sale. I had ignored them. Eventually, reality set in for them. Without my financial padding, they had to cancel their boat order. Liam had to pick up a side gig to cover their overpriced Airbnb and the newly reinstated car insurance. They were finally learning how the real world worked. Yesterday, Liam had texted me. Mom, I miss you. Can we come see your new place? I had thought about it for a long time. I wasn't going to cut my son out of my life forever, but the old dynamic was dead and buried. I replied, you can visit next Sunday for lunch. Just you. We have a lot to discuss about boundaries. He agreed. It was a small step, but it was on my terms. I took a sip of my iced tea, leaning back in my new patio chair. Barb, my old neighbor, had promised to drive over next week to see the place. Life was quieter now. The constant anxiety of being used, of waiting for the next demand, was completely gone. I looked at the small key resting on my patio table. There was only one copy of it, and it belonged entirely to me. I closed my eyes, letting the afternoon sun warm my face, finally at peace, in a home that was truly my own.